This marks the beginning of Season 2 of Solo Leveling, Ragnarok. For those who haven't witnessed the first season of this journey, the link to Season 1 is in the description below. The episode wastes no time throwing us into the storm. A helicopter roars overhead, slicing through the haze of smoke that blankets the ruined cityscape. From above, the streets resemble a battlefield carved straight from a nightmare. Chaos rules, sirens wail, flames crackle in the distance, and shrieks of monsters echo between shattered skyscrapers. Civilians have long fled, all that remains is carnage and the desperate struggle of hunters clashing against wave after wave of dungeon-born abominations. A grotesque beast bellows, towering over the chaos, only to be annihilated in an instant, its head bursting apart under a precise, merciless shot. Before the blood can even hit the pavement, another nightmare slithers from the shadows, only to meet the same swift end. And then the focus shifts. In the midst of the slaughter, Suho emerges like a phantom of war. His movements are sharp, violent, and beautiful, an unrelenting blur of blades and brutality. He launches himself at a towering beast, his foot snapping into its jaw with the force of a freight train. The impact sends the creature flying, crashing through stone and steel before collapsing in a heap. The last monster falls, and silence settles like ash. Suho straightens, his chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. His expression hardens as a single thought runs through his mind. One strike each. Not a single one survived more than a blow. Just how far have I grown? But his reflection is cut short. His eyes catch movement at the edge of the chaos. A unit of hunters is carving its way through the horde with unexpected efficiency. They move like one body, swords flashing, spells detonating in perfect rhythm. One of them, drenched in sweat yet grinning, cuts a beast down and yells between breaths, his voice tinged with astonishment. Ever since we put on this black gear, my whole body feels lighter. He spins midair, delivering a decisive strike that splits a monster clean in half, then laughs with raw exhilaration. Even I can kill magical beasts now. Suho's lips curve in the faintest smile. So that's the effect of the shadow gear? They're fighting like veterans now. Without ceremony, he raises his hand. Arise. The word ripples outward like a silent detonation, vibrating with power. The shadows respond instantly. Suho's mind sinks inward as the familiar flow of his new ability unfolds. Shadow creation, he recalls. A skill born from my class advancement. With it, I can reconstruct weapons and armor using the echoes, the data, buried in my shadow soldiers. It's like reaching into their essence, pulling fragments into my mind, breaking them down, reshaping them into whatever I imagine. He kneels beside the fallen beast he just felled. Its massive corpse twitches as shadows ripple across its skin like liquid ink. Concentrating, he visualizes the armor piece he wants. The clearer the image, the higher the grade. The shoulder guards and belt turned out rare because I could see them perfectly. But the gauntlet? I forced it. The result was weaker. A faint scowl touches his face. You can't cheat the system. Respect the material, respect the form, that's the only way to forge top-tier equipment. A chime answers his thoughts. Name, Suho. Level, 42. Class, Irregular White Shadow. Title, One Who Overcame Adversity. HP, 8525/8525. MP, 820/820. Strength, 130. Stamina, 62. Agility, 51. Intelligence, 61. Perception, 51. Available points, 0. He exhales slowly. At last. I can store shadow-crafted items. Restricted to equipment, sure, but still, it's a complete game changer. Another prompt flashes. Heroic grade items can be contracted permanently. He nods at the message, though his brow furrows slightly. So my class title, White Shadow, doesn't mean my shadows turned pale. Then what exactly does it signify? Before he can ponder further, a thunderous roar erupts, shaking the ruins around him. A fresh tide of monsters surges forward, eyes glowing red, claws slicing through the air. Suho plants his feet, gaze sharpening, his aura radiating calm readiness. He's about to spring. When a heavy impact resounds behind him. A new presence lands with such force that the earth itself trembles. The shockwave knocks rubble into the air as the monstrous corpse beneath the newcomer is flattened like clay. Suho whirls. The figure straightens, his silhouette etched against the broken skyline. A smirk glints in the firelight. Park Dojan. With casual confidence, Dojan raises one glowing hand. The beast scents him immediately, 3 peel from the horde, rushing him from every side. He doesn't even blink. Amplify. The word is whispered, but the effect is cataclysmic. His arm erupts with radiant force, and in one sweeping strike, the monsters are reduced to ash, their forms erased in an instant. The battlefield stills. Hunters nearby freeze mid-motion, their weapons hanging limp at their sides. One stammers, barely able to speak. He erased them, in one move. Corpses litter the ground, the metallic stench of blood thick in the air. Amid the silence, Suho and Dojan lock eyes. There is no open hostility, only a heavy, unspoken tension. Dojan's smirk lingers as he regards Suho with amusement, while Suho's expression remains guarded, conflicted, caught between curiosity and unease. Something about Dojan's calm, almost mocking composure feels wrong. Far from the battlefield, another story unfolds. In a modest apartment, Yujinho sits frozen before a glowing television screen. His hands tremble as he grips the edge of the table, eyes wide and wet with tears. The broadcast replays the dungeon break, Suho's masked figure unmistakable. "So you're alive?" Jinho's voice cracks, trembling with relief and fury. "You brat, you should have called me the moment you came back." Beside him stands Wu Jingxiel, quiet and observant. His tone is gentle, sincere. It's a relief, truly. But the moment breaks. Jingxiel's phone buzzes urgently. He answers. A sharp voice cuts through the line, "Cho Jong-in. Did you see the broadcast? That masked man, it's Sung Suho." Before Jingxiel can reply, another voice intrudes, Lim Taegyu, his breath ragged as he races across rooftops. "It's him. I'm certain of it. I saw him before, when Long was with me. He's the masked hunter. I'm heading there now, I'll contact Park Dojan. We'll place Suho under arrest." Jingxiel's face hardens. His voice grows stern. "Wait. Don't jump to violence. There's no solid evidence linking him to anything illegal." But Taegyu spits back, his tone sharp and accusing. "Then why did he hide his face? Don't forget, Lee Minsung is dead. And the star powder, he's connected. I know it." Cho Jong-in, ever the strategist, interjects calmly, though his words carry weight. "I don't believe Suho is a villain. But I agree, he should be brought into the association. My research shows he's Yujinho's nephew. That ties him directly to the chairman. I'm trusting the association because I still believe in your justice, Wu Jingxiel. Handle this wisely." The line falls quiet, leaving tension in its wake. Back on the battlefield, Park Dojan's phone vibrates. He answers, his tone steady. "Yes, Guild Master. He's right in front of me." Suho watches every flicker of his expression, cautious. "So this is Park Dojan, the one who just rose to S rank. Then why is he smiling like that while staring at me?" Dojan ends the call, his smirk unchanged. His eyes pierce Suho's. "Hunter Sung Suho," he says with deliberate calm, "let's talk." The order came down like a hammer. "The Guild Master of the Reaper Guild has issued instructions," Park Dojan said evenly, his eyes fixed on Suho. "I've been tasked with escorting you to the Hunter Association." Suho's brow tightened as he studied Dojan, his tone measured but tinged with suspicion. "So that's the Reaper Guild's agenda. Judging by how you threw the Hunter Association's name into this? I take it this isn't a friendly recruitment pitch." Dojan's reply was cold, stripped of any unnecessary warmth. "You don't seem to grasp the gravity of the situation you're in. Showing up here in the middle of a dungeon break with cameras capturing everything, it only confirms the association's concerns." His gaze sharpened, his voice cutting like glass. "You are a suspect in the murder of Vice Guild Master Lee Minsung. On top of that, you're under investigation for distributing star powder." The accusation hit like a blow to the chest. Suho's eyes widened, disbelief flashing across his face. "Wanted, for murder?" Dojan gave a firm nod, his expression serious. "Do yourself a favor and don't resist. If you come quietly, this ends without incident." Before Suho could form a reply, one of the hunters who had fought beside him earlier stepped forward, bristling with anger. "Hold on. There's no way. He saved our lives back there. You've got the wrong guy." Another hunter chimed in, fists clenched tight. "This is ridiculous. You can't just drag someone away on baseless claims. That's abuse of power." Suho raised his hand, silencing them before the outrage could escalate. His voice was calm, composed, and respectful. "I appreciate it. Truly. But it's all right." One hunter muttered under his breath, shocked. "He's agreeing to go with them?" Suho took a steady breath, his eyes resolute. "I'll go. Voluntarily. I was heading to the association sooner or later anyway." Dojan gave a curt nod, satisfied. "Good. That makes things easier for everyone." As Suho turned to follow, one of the younger hunters whispered with quiet awe. "He's something else, even gave us gear without asking for anything in return." Suho froze mid-step. "Right. Almost forgot." He extended his hand, shadows writhing at his fingertips. One by one, the equipment he had lent out began dissolving into dark streams before being absorbed back into his body. A glowing system message flickered to life before his eyes. Skill activated, Shadow Item Storage, Level 1. Class exclusive. No mana cost. Allows caster to absorb shadow forged items into personal storage. Items can be summoned or withdrawn at will. Current capacity, 14/40. A faint smirk tugged at Suho's lips. This ability, way more versatile than I imagined. From the corner of his eye, Dojan observed silently. Though he didn't comment, the hunter's gaze lingered on Suho, thoughtful and heavy. He's not the same as before, Dojan mused. Something happened to him recently, something monumental. His presence, his aura, it's sharper, more refined. Stronger. Suho broke his focus with a glance over his shoulder. Well? You coming? Dojan hesitated a moment before falling into step beside him, his face neutral but his mind restless. The balance of power is shifting. The Star Fragment project, the risk of it spiraling out of control is smaller now, but I can't gamble yet. Before we even consider drawing someone like him into the fold, I'll need the fragment perfected. The two men walked side by side through the ruined streets. The battle was over, but the echoes of destruction clung to the air, burnt stone, blood, and silence. A quiet tension sat between them, unspoken but palpable. Then, the calm fractured. A shrill ringtone broke the silence, buzzing from the hunter's pockets. Almost instinctively, Suho, Dojan, and one of the nearby hunters reached for their devices. The first hunter to check his phone froze, his eyes widening in shock as the screen's glow reflected across his pale face. His voice trembled as he read the message aloud. Emergency alert? Major prison break reported at Jisan prison. Estimated, 500 Sirank Awakeners have escaped custody. Suspected use of illegal enhancers. The words hit like an explosion. Another hunter exhaled shakily, realization dawning. This can't be coincidence. Stardust, it has to be connected. Nothing like this happens without it. The name cut through Suho's thoughts like a blade. Stardust. His footsteps faltered, his body going rigid. The memory of every lead, every suspicion tied to the drug flooded back into him, sharp and suffocating. He stopped walking altogether, eyes narrowing with cold intensity. Park Dojan was quick to notice the shift in Suho's demeanor. His eyes narrowed, studying him carefully. You're not planning on heading there, are you? His voice carried no sarcasm, no trace of jest, it was weighted, solemn, as though he already knew the answer but still needed to hear it aloud. Suho's gaze didn't waver. His eyes locked forward, sharp and unwavering, his voice steady as steel. I have to stop them before it escalates any further. Dojan's lips pressed into a line. He tried to keep his tone rational, almost clinical. Reinforcements will arrive soon. Other hunters will be deployed. You don't need to carry this burden by yourself. But Suho shook his head, conviction already etched into his stance. If they're dosed with star powder, the association's response teams won't be enough. I've seen the effects. It doesn't just boost their strength, it warps them, strips away their humanity until all that's left is rage. You send unprepared hunters against that, and it'll be a massacre. Dojan's jaw clenched as he looked away, struggling against the truth of those words. Suho was right, and the thought of letting him vanish into the chaos unsettled him. But restraining him here would only add fuel to the storm already surrounding Suho's name. You understand what you're doing, don't you? Dojan said finally, his voice deliberate, each word laced with warning. If you don't report to the association now, if you disappear instead, you'll be painting yourself as guilty. For both of us, this only gets worse. The silence that followed was long and heavy. Then Dojan closed his eyes and exhaled, shoulders loosening as though resigning himself to the inevitable. Fine. Let's just say I tried to stop you. Suho's reply was a single nod, gratitude flashing in the brief glance he threw over his shoulder. I'll check in at the association afterward. That's a promise. And with that, he was gone. Suho launched himself into the air, his form a blur of motion as he bounded from rooftop to rooftop. Each leap was fluid, silent, controlled, the movement of someone who had mastered both power and precision. He cut across the cityscape like a living shadow, heading straight toward the brewing storm. Dojan remained rooted in place, his gaze following Suho's vanishing silhouette until it disappeared between the buildings. For a while, there was only stillness. Then, slowly, a faint smile crept across his face. Perfect timing, he murmured. Let's see just how far you've climbed. Meanwhile, at Jisan prison, the world was already burning. Sirens had long since faded into the background, drowned out by the chaos of combat. The once impenetrable compound was now a war zone. Entire portions of the outer wall lay in rubble, collapsed into heaps of jagged concrete and twisted rebar. Smoke bled into the sky in greasy plumes, carrying the smell of ash and blood. The ground itself bore scars of violence, scorched earth, shattered stone, the lifeless sprawled across the cracked pavement. The prison yard, once a controlled cage, had become a battlefield. Inmates clashed in brutal brawls, fists and mana colliding with lethal force. Some already lay dead, bodies broken and discarded in the dirt. Others writhed in pain, unconscious or crippled from the sudden surge of power that had ripped through the compound. From atop a mountain of fractured debris, a voice cut through the turmoil. Calm, yet dripping with disdain. Humans always find new ways to outdo themselves in cruelty. The speaker sat lazily, one leg dangling over the ruin as though the carnage below were nothing more than theater. His posture carried an air of certainty, a confidence so complete it bordered on arrogance. It was as if this moment had been inevitable, something he had been waiting for all along. To think, he went on, a crooked smile tugging at his lips, they'd actually shove mana crystals into our necks, like collars, just so they could snuff us out the second we stepped out of line. He chuckled, low and dark, scanning the crowd of awakeners now unchained and bloodthirsty. Tell me I'm wrong, brothers. A ripple of bitter agreement rolled through the yard. Heads turned upward, eyes burning with recognition and loyalty. In this chaos, he wasn't just another inmate, he was a figurehead, the one who shattered their shackles and gave their fury a voice. His voice rose, thundering above the riots. After the cataclysm, what did we do? We used the very powers we never asked for. And what did the Hunter Association do in return? They branded us as criminals. Locked us away. Treated us like beasts. He rose slowly to his feet, every motion deliberate, his clenched fist raised into the smoke-choked air. Well, I say it's time we remind them what they made. The yard filled with bodies, hundreds of awakeners, ranging from low-rank D fighters to once notorious elites now stripped of glory. Their collective resentment simmered, their eyes blazing with vengeance. The silence that followed his words was dense, charged with violence waiting to erupt. Every one of us has been trampled under the same boot, he shouted, his voice like a war drum. Every humiliation, every scar, every day of rot in this hellhole, ends tonight. He thrust his hand into the air, his command a spark that ignited their fury. Trigger the dungeon break. The prison roared in answer. The rioters surged forward, chaos multiplying like wildfire. And at the heart of it all, standing tall amid the ruins, was the man who had turned a riot into a revolution, Huang Dong Suk. Once a prisoner, now a symbol. The spark of rebellion that promised to engulf far more than the prison's walls. Across the city, alarms erupted. A distorted, metallic voice blared over the emergency broadcast system, echoing through streets and alleys alike. Warning. A large-scale prison break has occurred at Jisan Prison. Citizens are urged to evacuate. All available hunters, report immediately. Windows rattled under the force of the sirens, buildings shuddering as the city itself seemed to cry out in alarm. The storm had only just begun. All civilians within the vicinity must evacuate at once. Follow the instructions of licensed hunters. The automated voice repeated the message again and again, its metallic tone drumming panic deeper into the hearts of those who listened. Families rushed down stairwells, clutching children and bags, their eyes wide with fear. In every district, alarms echoed like the tolling of a death bell. But in one quiet apartment complex, danger arrived faster than any broadcast could prepare them for. On the third floor, a strange hiss slithered through the hall. A door began to deform as if its metal were nothing more than wax held too close to a flame. Bubbles rose across its surface, sizzling before the upper half caved in with a sharp groan. Through the warped hole reached a hand, its flesh glowing faintly with mana. Fingers curled inward, casually twisting the lock from the inside. The door creaked open. 3 men slipped in. Not prisoners anymore, but predators let loose into a world unready to face them. The one who entered first, identified only as Prisoner 1, moved with a sharp, assessing gaze. His eyes swept across the apartment, alert but confident, as though he had already calculated that no one was inside. Behind him, Prisoner 3 strolled in, his posture looser, almost lazy. He gave the living room a once-over and exhaled. Looks abandoned already, he muttered, kicking off his shoes with the arrogance of someone returning home. Sirens go off, and everyone bolts. Easy pickings. The 3 wasted no time. Cabinets were thrown open, drawers rifled through. Prison uniforms hit the floor in heaps as they pulled out whatever civilian clothes they could find. Shirts, jackets, shoes, anything to erase the brand of captivity stamped on them. Prisoner 2, slower than the others, tugged uneasily at a coat he had found. His voice carried doubt, hesitant but audible. We've got numbers, sure. But, you really think we can stand against the association? They've got A ranks, even S ranks, waiting for things like this. Prisoner 1's head snapped toward him, his eyes cold. He stepped closer, irritation thick in his tone. Did you already forget? From his pocket, he produced a shard, jagged, glowing faintly, unstable in its pulse. A star fragment. Its light cast twisted shadows across his face. Dong Suk gave this to us himself. You know why the association banned these? His grin widened, sharp and cruel. Not because they're dangerous. Because they're terrified. If every awakened had one of these, the whole system they built would collapse overnight. The fragment's eerie glow reflected in Prisoner 2's eyes. His uncertainty wavered, awe creeping into his expression. The hesitation drained, leaving behind either belief or fear, perhaps both. If Dong Suk says it, then it must be true. When he becomes an S rank, no one will touch us. Meanwhile, Prisoner 3 had already wandered off into the kitchen. His voice rang out suddenly, filled with glee. You're not gonna believe this, I found a 30-year-old Macallan. He emerged with the dusty bottle clutched proudly in hand. Prisoner 1 pinched the bridge of his nose, glaring. We don't have time for your crap, he snapped. Change. Now. But Prisoner 2's eyes lit up, already moving closer. 30 years? That's worth a fortune. Their laughter echoed through the small apartment, indulgent and mocking, fueled by the thrill of freedom and stolen luxuries. They never noticed the faint shudder of a cabinet door. Inside, a boy crouched, knees pulled tight to his chest. His whole body trembled, but his grip on his phone was iron. Hands shaking, he tapped frantically, whispering to himself. I have to report them. Someone has to know. Just as his thumb hovered over send, the light vanished. A shadow loomed. Slowly, he raised his head, straight into the grin of Prisoner 1. The man crouched low, face inches away, his smile sickly sweet. Well, look at this, he whispered. Hey there, kid. You want a taste of the good life too? Outside, the city itself burned. Fires raged unchecked, whole districts swallowed by smoke and ash. Explosions cracked in the distance. Screams, both human and monstrous, cut through alleys where hunters and escaped awakeners clashed with unrestrained violence. And from above, perched atop a high-rise like a conductor savoring his orchestra, stood Huang Dong Suk. His eyes gleamed as he gazed across the chaos, a smile tugging at his lips. To him, the destruction was beautiful. Every scream, every flame, a note in the symphony he claimed as his own. Not bad, he murmured. One signal, and even the high ranks come through themselves into the fire. He savored the sight a moment longer before another presence stepped onto the rooftop. We should move, the newcomer said plainly. The riots bought us enough time. Dong Suk's expression soured. He turned, his voice sharp. Don't fool yourself into thinking you're giving orders. You're just my little brother's errand boy. The man didn't flinch. His tone remained calm. I'm not under him. I was sent for one purpose, retrieve you. That's all. Kong Taeshik, a B-rank awakener, stood unshaken. Dong Suk's face twisted with rage. He seized Taeshik's collar, pulling him close, venom dripping from every word. So what, you think you're better than me because of some rank? You going to look down on me too? Taeshik's jaw tightened, but he didn't move. Inwardly, contempt flared. He acts like a god, but he doesn't even have the spine to use the fragment himself. Afraid of a little side effect. Coward. For a moment, the thought of ending him right then and there flickered dangerously in his mind. But another memory surfaced, Dong Suk's younger brother, his words cold and absolute before the breakout. This riot is nothing but noise. Your only job is to bring my brother back alive. Fail, and the consequences will be immediate. Taeshik exhaled slowly, loosening his grip on anger. When Dong Suk barked again for an answer, sharp with impatience, Taeshik finally let the tension drain from his shoulders. I'm not here to make enemies of S ranks, he muttered. I'll follow your lead. Elsewhere, another rooftop thundered as a tactical helicopter descended, its blades cutting through smoke. With a screech of metal, the side door swung open, and two figures stepped onto the ash-strewn surface. Wu Jinchul was the first out, scanning the burning horizon with sharp eyes. Beside him, Choi Jong-in followed, his movements measured and calm. It's been a long time since we stood together, Jong-in said, glancing at his companion. Not since the cataclysm. Jinchul's jaw tightened, his voice clipped. This isn't about reminiscing. I won't stand by while civilians are butchered. Jong-in's expression hardened as his thoughts shifted. What about the suppression devices on the inmates? Jinchul's reply came like a hammer blow. Shattered. The control hub was deliberately targeted and destroyed. Whoever orchestrated it also ambushed our hunters. Several of ours are clinging to life. The words struck the gathered hunters like a physical weight. Jong-in exhaled sharply, disbelief dripping from his tone. Impossible, the admin sector was under the watch of A ranks. To bring it down so easily, whoever's behind this isn't just powerful, they're prepared. And with star fragments involved, it's obvious someone with real influence is pulling the strings. Another figure emerged from the haze, stepping into the light without any need for introduction. Lim Taigu's voice cut into the tense silence. Exactly as I predicted. This isn't chaos for its own sake, it's deliberate. Someone's directing the entire operation from the shadows. Wu Jinchul gave him a curt nod. Glad you made it, Hunter Lim. We're going to need every blade at our disposal. Lim's face was grim, his words heavier than the smoke in the air. And one more thing, Sung Suho. He's ignored the association's summons. The name alone was enough to freeze Jinchul mid-breath. His lips parted as though speaking to himself. Sung Suho. Concern turned to suspicion, suspicion sharpened into accusation. Lim Taigu's glare burned through the room. He said he was headed to Jisan prison. And we all know that facilities fallen under the control of escapees empowered by star fragments. If a man already under suspicion for smuggling star powder deliberately heads straight there, do I really need to connect the dots for you? His words gained momentum, each one another nail in the coffin. Let's stop pretending this only started today. The seeds were planted the moment he first appeared under that black mask. Back then we dismissed him as an oddity, but now the truth is clear, every move was calculated. The killing of Li Minxiang wasn't some accident born of chaos. It was intentional. He silenced an obstacle in his path. Since then, every step he's taken has been to cover his trail in the distribution of star powder. Lim's conclusion landed like a blade. He's concealed his real rank. He's hidden his true strength. And someone willing to lie about something that fundamental isn't just dangerous, they're an active threat. I'm classifying him here and now as a rogue-class criminal. A villain. That's why I demanded to join this operation, to see it ended with my own hands. Wu Jinchul slammed a fist against the table, voice cutting through the rising hostility. You don't know that. There's no proof Suho went to Jisan prison to stir trouble. What if he's there to stop it? You're condemning him on nothing but suspicion. Before his words could settle, Choi Jong-un entered the debate with steady finality. Speculation or not, we cannot deny this, he's hidden his awakening rank since the beginning. That alone strips him of credibility. And in moments like these, when lives are at stake, trust isn't optional. It's a luxury we cannot afford. Jinchul turned to Jong-un, disbelief etched across his face. You too? His voice cracked with quiet betrayal. Park Dojan stayed silent in the corner, arms folded, gaze unreadable. Yet inside, his thoughts churned like a storm. I can't oppose S-ranks. Not now. But Suho must have known this would happen. Rejecting the association was practically begging for suspicion. His mind drifted deeper, to the core of the spreading rot. Star powder should have been choked off when the association banned it. Instead, its evolution, the fragments, spread like wildfire. Even knowing how unstable it is, hunters are still using it. A humorless smile touched his lips. Fine. Let them tear each other apart. I'll wait. And when the pieces settle, I'll find Suho myself. Far from the bickering hunters, Sung Suho's figure tore through a dense jungle, every breath ragged but steady. His body blurred between the trees, branches snapping and foliage scattering in his wake. He didn't let up, not even for an instant. Beast possession should have given me more speed, this terrain's too dense. Gray, hold on a little longer. He pushed harder. Muscles screamed, lungs burned. The tree line broke, and without slowing he launched himself forward, bursting out of the jungle like a projectile into the open sky. Before him sprawled a nightmare, the city. Smoke choked the horizon, flames climbed skyward, and the air trembled with a symphony of terror, explosions, roars, and screams both human and monstrous. He landed hard on the outskirts, boots skidding against cracked asphalt. The moment his senses opened, the noise sharpened into unbearable clarity. Help me. Please, no, don't. I'll do anything, just don't kill me. His chest tightened, the cries slicing through his mind. This isn't just noise, this is the Bond skill. Their fear, their last moments, it's feeding straight into me. He didn't stop to dwell. He sprinted again, vaulting rooftops, weaving through shattered streets. Every second he wasted, someone else died. As he landed in an alley, the remnants of beast possession faded. His aura steadied as exhaustion threatened to take over, sweat pouring down his temple. But the sight before him ripped away any thought of rest. A gang of prisoners, circling terrified civilians. Blood already darkened the ground. Their eyes weren't just cruel, they were feral, drunk on the madness of fragments. One of them sneered at Suho's sudden appearance. The hell? A mud and some guy just fell out of the sky? Another burst into laughter. What is this, a damn circus act? Suho ignored them. He crouched beside Gray, who had collapsed at his side, chest heaving weakly. You did more than enough, he whispered. Gray's tired whine was answer enough. Suho rose. His presence shifted. This part's mine. The prisoners cackled, mockery spilling out. You a hunter? You look half dead already. What do you think you're gonna do? They never finished the sentence. Suho blurred forward. In an instant, his fist connected with a prisoner's jaw, bone cracked, the man slammed into the ground so hard the pavement fractured beneath him. The others froze, shock painted across their faces. Suho stood tall over the unconscious man, eyes cold and merciless. "You had your chance," he said, voice low, cutting through the air like steel. "You could have run. Disappeared. Started again." He pressed his foot against the man's skull, his aura rising like a storm. Shadows curled at his heels, alive and waiting. But instead, you chose to prey on the weak. The atmosphere thickened, mana radiating in suffocating waves. Suho's final words hit like a verdict. "I won't waste time repeating myself. 2 choices, kneel down, or die." The pond's surface glimmered faintly beneath the afternoon sun, its calm broken only by the soft rings spreading from a fishing line. The smell of damp earth and crushed grass lingered in the breeze, carried along with the buzzing of summer insects. A barefoot boy stood nearby, his gaze fixed on the man in front of him. Young Suho's eyes drifted over the old man's weathered back, lingering on the pale grooves that carved across his skin like stories etched in flesh. "Grandpa," Suho finally asked, cautious yet curious. "Why do you have all those scars?" The old man tugged gently on his rod, feeling resistance at the end of the line. His hands, calloused and steady from years of work, reeled in the catch. Only after the silver flash of fish broke the water surface did he glance back with a faint, knowing smile. "These?" He raised his arm, letting the boy see more clearly. "These aren't just scars, Suho. They're medals. Proof I kept moving when it mattered." His finger brushed across one long mark on his forearm. "This one pulled a little girl from a burning house. I was 7 seconds away from being buried in it myself, but I couldn't leave her." He shifted his hand lower, resting it against his ribs where another jagged line carved deep. "And this?" Some drunk was about to cave in a man's skull with a broken bottle. "I stepped in before he could. Got this for my trouble." Suho frowned, puzzled. "But why take that risk? Why throw yourself into danger when you know you'll get hurt?" The man chuckled softly, his palm rough as it ruffled the boy's hair. His gaze softened. "It's not about being fearless. My body just moved before my mind could think of consequences. That's all. Sometimes, you don't stop to ask why." The scene dissolved. The warm pond and buzzing insects gave way to stinking air, thick with sweat, rust, and rotting trash. Present day slammed into focus, Sung Suho standing in the center of a shattered street. Around him, convicts brandished jagged pipes and knives, circling with the restless hunger of wolves. The air itself seemed to shudder from the weight of his aura. His eyes swept across them, calm, but edged sharp enough to cut. His voice came steady, carrying enough iron to silence their nervous shuffling. "You have 2 paths," he told them coldly. "Drop here unconscious, or fight back and die where you stand." Some faltered at the words. One muttered, voice trembling, "You saw that kick, right? No way that was normal." Another narrowed his eyes, suspicion creeping into his tone. "Has to be a high-rank hunter." The balance shifted when one man stepped forward, grin crooked and cruel. Between his fingers gleamed a shard, jagged and faintly glowing. "Relax," he sneered. "We've got these." The others followed his lead, pulling out their own illicit treasures, star fragments. Without hesitation, they swallowed them whole, their throats convulsing as if they'd downed shots of bitter liquor. The reaction was violent and immediate. Their veins lit with a lurid yellow glow, muscles bulging until skin seemed ready to tear. The ground cracked beneath their boots as they flexed their new strength. Confidence bled into their voices. "I could crush an A rank right now," one laughed, manic. "Hell," another barked, "maybe even drop an S rank." Suho's eyes darkened. His tone dropped to a razor's edge. "So that's your answer? Resistance." But before he moved, a venomous voice slithered through his thoughts. Mocking. Familiar. "Why do you even hesitate, boy?" It taunted. "They've eaten the fragments. You know what that means. Yet you stall while innocents bleed out. Pathetic." A vision tore through him, Lee Min-sung standing there, eyes blazing crimson, teeth bared in a cruel grin. "What good is that shiny new class if you're still a coward? You're no different from the day you killed me." The specter spread its arms wide, voice booming like a dare. "Go on, prove me wrong. Rip through them the way you ripped through me. Don't think. Just do it." Suho's breath slowed. The light in his eyes dulled, replaced by something heavier, darker, bloodlust. His boot pressed harder on the skull of the man already pinned beneath him. Bone and asphalt cracked in unison. The convicts recoiled, but rage quickly replaced fear. With weapons raised, they charged as one, the glow of star fragments fueling their madness. The first lunged low, blade flashing toward Suho's ribs. Suho's hand lashed out like a trap snapping shut, seizing the attacker's wrist mid-swing. The bone gave way with a sharp, brittle crack. The man screamed, but the knife never struck home. It slipped from his broken grip, clattering against the pavement, only for Suho to catch it in the same motion. The blade flashed in his hand, carving through flesh with swift, precise arcs. Chest, throat, veins, every cut intentional, every strike decisive. The man collapsed in a heap before he had even realized what had happened, his lifeblood pooling around him. Suho let the weapon fall, its echo sharp against the stones, and advanced without pause. The next criminal stiffened, rooted in place by fear. His voice trembled, disbelief tearing through the panic. How? Why can't I see him move? I swallowed the fragment, I should be faster. His complaint ended abruptly when Suho's fist drove into his face. The blow carried the force of a wrecking ball. Bone shattered like fragile glass, and his body was hurled backward, colliding with a brick wall hard enough to send a cloud of dust spilling down. The last two prisoners didn't hesitate. Their muscles coiled, eyes blazing with murderous intent as they hurled themselves into the air, bodies cutting forward with predators' precision. They moved with the speed and instinct of killers, yet Suho had already felt their intent before they left the ground. The shadows at his feet stirred. Darkness flowed outward like liquid, stretching, lengthening, then spiking upward in jagged spears. With a deafening snap, the shadow spikes ripped through the air, catching the two assailants mid-flight. The momentum carried them forward only inches before the impalement tore through them, blood spraying as their bodies convulsed. The fight ended before their brains registered death. They crumpled, twitching once before lying still, crimson pooling across the alley floor until the bricks ran slick. Silence pressed down, thick with the metallic tang of blood. Then, within his consciousness, a familiar figure materialized, Lee Min-sung. The ghost's presence was both casual and unnerving, an arm slung lazily around Suho's shoulder as though they were old friends. His smile was thin, his eyes devoid of warmth. "You've changed a lot in such a short time," Min-sung observed with mock amusement. "Impressive, really." His voice then sharpened, the playfulness peeling away into judgment. "But tell me, was slaughtering them necessary? You could have subdued them. Do you even know the difference between a beast and a man anymore? How can you still call yourself a hunter?" As the apparition flickered, Mong's laughter echoed faintly in the back of Suho's skull. At first a low chuckle, it swelled into something sharp, grating. "Seems like you've become a monster yourself, kid." Suho's expression never wavered. No flicker of guilt, no shadow of hesitation. His voice was cold when he answered. "Beru." From the darkness his ant-like shadow soldier rose. "Young monarch," Beru said softly, concern threading his tone. "Are you well?" Suho gave a short nod. His words were quiet, yet unyielding, the voice of someone who had already chosen his path. "I'm fine." Beru studied him carefully, unease creeping in. "I understand your drive to protect others," he said slowly. "But, is it wise to reveal yourself so openly? You aren't hiding your identity at all." Suho's gaze shifted toward the fallen hunter nearby. Kneeling, he reached down and gently closed the man's vacant eyes. When he spoke again, his tone was calm, yet steel lay beneath it. "To be honest, I came here to protect people. That was all." His jaw tightened. "But the longer I stayed, the angrier I became. With Iterim's apostle looming over us, we should be uniting. Instead, we're tearing each other apart in petty awakeners' wars. If this keeps up, all we'll do is drag my father down." He rose slowly, resolve hardening with each word. His gaze lifted toward the smoke-stained sky above, his voice carrying like a vow. "So I won't hide anymore. I'll stand at the front. I'll unite them, hunters, descendants of monarchs, even the scum we call villains." His eyes sharpened, burning with conviction. "Magic beasts, anything strong enough to stand against what's coming, I'll claim it all with my own power." For a moment, the world itself seemed to pause, holding its breath. Determination etched itself across Suho's features, hard and absolute. His eyes darkened, the faint glow within them deepening into a vivid, unyielding violet. Beru tilted his head, the corners of his mandibles pulling into a rare, almost amused grin. "So that's your goal, young monarch? To force everything in this world to kneel before you?" Suho didn't look at him. His gaze remained fixed on the horizon, unwavering. "Not servants," he said quietly. "Comrades." His attention fell back to the alley below, where the mangled corpses of the escaped convicts still bled into the cracked pavement. His voice lowered, carrying a weight that felt heavier than the blood-soaked air. "But before that, I need to sweep out the filth here. Then I'll hunt down the rest, the cowards hiding in the shadows of the city. For that, I'll need numbers." He raised his right hand, fingers curling as the darkness around him stirred restlessly. The atmosphere thickened, energy vibrating in the air like a storm building pressure. Power pooled inside him, swelling until it burned in his throat, ready to erupt. His eyes blazed brighter, violet deepening into something that bordered on radiant, as though conviction itself had taken color. No more hesitation, he declared, the words sharp as steel being drawn. Arise. The command cracked across the night like thunder. Above the city, chaos painted the skyline. Smoke and fire blurred the stars, casting an orange pall over districts already drowning in violence. On one of the quieter roads, a luxury sedan slid across the asphalt with elegant precision, its frame reflecting the dim light of street lamps. The engine's hum was steady, controlled, even as the driver pressed harder on the accelerator. For a moment, the car was nothing but a shadow weaving through the storm. Then the calm shattered. From the darkness ahead, a roaring sphere of flame tore through the night, compressing the air with its sheer velocity. It struck the sedan side in an explosion of light and heat. The world erupted, metal shrieked, glass shattered, and fire consumed. The vehicle spun, then slammed onto the street, flames devouring its bodywork as black smoke poured into the sky. High above, perched on the roof of a building, the same gang of criminals who had invaded the apartment earlier watched with hungry eyes. Their leader leaned forward, grinning with cruel delight at the wreckage. Unlucky bastards, he sneered. Wrong time, wrong place. Guess they didn't hear the city's a battlefield now. But the scene below didn't unfold as he expected. Through the hiss of flames, a calm male voice cut through, steady and composed. Miho. You alright? No panic. No fear. The driver's side door groaned, then was ripped away entirely by a single hand. Metal warped and screeched in protest before being torn clean from its hinges. The tall figure holding it studied the twisted door briefly, his expression almost dry. I'm guessing insurance won't cover this sort of thing, he remarked flatly. Without warning, he spun, hurling the car door upward like a weapon. It cut through the air with a vicious whistle before smashing against the rooftop ledge. The impact was so violent it bounced skyward, leaving cracks across the concrete edge. The criminals flinched back instinctively, their confidence faltering. Survivors? Strong enough to use a car door as a projectile? The leader's smirk died as his gaze locked on the flames. Two silhouettes emerged from the fire, their steps unhurried, steady, untouched by the heat. Embers rained around them, sliding off their figures as though afraid to touch them. The man loosened his tie, rolling his shoulders as if annoyed more than threatened. His voice carried low, tinged with irritation. What a damn mess. And in the middle of our family trip, no less. At his side, the woman flexed her fingers, joints cracking one by one as her irritation boiled over into something far sharper. Her eyes burned, not with fear, but with venomous intent. The only blessing, she said, her tone sharp enough to cut, is that we happened to be here when this started. Recognition rippled through the gang. These weren't civilians. They weren't prey. The woman was Beck Miho, Vice Guild Master of the White Tiger Guild, an A-rank hunter known for her relentless power. And the man beside her, straightening his collar with deliberate calm, spoke with authority that left no room for defiance. If we drag this out, your mother's going to have my head, he muttered, glancing sideways at Miho. He was Baek Yunho, Guild Master of the White Tiger Guild. An S-rank hunter whose very presence bore down like a storm front. His eyes locked on the rooftop, narrowing on the spot where the fireball had been launched. Let's end this quickly. The scene shifted. Three criminals lay sprawled across the cracked asphalt, their bodies beaten so brutally that even breathing seemed like an effort. Blood mixed with grime beneath them, forming slick pools that reflected the distant glow of the fires still raging in other parts of the city. Standing over them, Baek Yunho's voice carried an unnerving casualness, as if their groans and whimpers were nothing but background noise. How many inmates are supposed to be on the streets again, he asked, his tone calm but his sharp gaze sweeping the chaos around them. Miho, her stance poised and unshaken, glanced down at her phone, the screen reflecting in her eyes. Roughly 500, she said evenly, her voice detached, though the tension in her jaw betrayed her unease. Yunho exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck with a slow, deliberate motion. 500, he muttered, the words almost a sigh before his tone sharpened, steel lacing his next sentence. At this pace, your mother's going to rip into us for being late to the family gathering. The light humor in his words barely masked the undercurrent of seriousness running through them. Miho's brows furrowed slightly as she locked her screen and slipped the phone back into her pocket. The association chairman is en route, she said, her voice quieter now. He's bringing 3 S-rank hunters with him. It'll take 10 minutes. She hesitated, just for a moment, before adding, and there are reports that Suho might be here. Some say he's tied to the star powder incidents. At the mention of the name, Yunho's expression shifted. Thoughtful. Sharp. Suho, why does that name sound so damn familiar? His gaze hardened with resolve as he turned back toward her, his tone leaving no room for debate. Civilians first. Rescue operations begin now, Miho. She gave him a small, almost wistful smile, a flash of nostalgia breaking through her composure. "This is just like old times," she said softly. "Charging headfirst into danger, back when you were still a firefighter." He didn't get the chance to respond. His head snapped to the side, eyes narrowing sharply. Something unnatural slithered along the edge of his perception, and his focus zeroed in on the shadows between two nearby buildings. Figures lingered there, wrong, distorted, their shapes shifting in ways that defied the human form. "Miho," Yunho said, his voice low, tense. "Any reports of a dungeon break in this sector?" She immediately shook her head. "No. Nothing." His frown deepened, confusion threading through the edges of his tone. "Then what the hell is that thing?" he muttered, his gaze never leaving the figures. "It doesn't look human. Not even close." Elsewhere in the city, the night unfolded into another nightmare. A young woman stood frozen in the corner of a narrow alley, her body trembling so violently her knees nearly buckled. The acrid scent of blood thickened the air, choking her lungs as her gaze locked on the hunter lying just feet away. His face was pale, almost ghostly. His chest barely rose with the effort of a final breath. "Go, run," he rasped, voice raw with pain, before collapsing. His body went still, eyes glassy, the pool of blood beneath him spreading quickly until it touched her shoes. Two escaped inmates loomed over the corpse, their twisted grins sharp and cruel in the dim light. "Titch. Look at that," one of them sneered, a laugh bubbling up that dripped with venom. "All that effort just to play hero." The other, his hand resting almost lazily on the hilt of his sword, tilted his head in mock pity. What was it? A sweet little romance in the middle of raids? How touching. The woman's hands trembled violently as she crouched beside the fallen hunter. Tears blurred her vision as she reached out with shaking fingers to close his eyes. "Yang Hyun," she whispered, her voice breaking, the name spilling out like a prayer. The moment of grief was shattered by a guttural snarl. Enough of that crying, the sword-wielding inmate spat, his irises glowing a feral red as his lips twisted into a savage grin. He lunged forward, blade arcing down toward her. "Don't worry," he mocked, the words soaked in cruelty, "you'll be seeing him again real soon." But the killing blow never came. A voice, sharp and commanding, cracked through the chaos like thunder. "Arise!" The fallen hunter's shadow rippled, twisting unnaturally, and then surged upward as if yanked by unseen strings. Darkness condensed and solidified, forming a soldier, silent, imposing, its blackened figure standing between the girl and her death. The sword clashed against hardened shadow, the force sparking like steel on steel. The girl's eyes widened, her breath catching in disbelief as her trembling lips formed a whisper. "Yang Hyun?" The shadow soldier did not speak, but its entire form quivered with tension as it held the inmate's blade at bay, refusing to yield even an inch. The attacker stumbled back, fury twisting his features. "What the?" he spat. "That corpse just stood up. How the hell, what is this?" From the rooftop above, a calm voice answered, cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Even in death," Suho said, his tone steady but charged, "you still answered my summon. That means your will hasn't changed, you still want to protect her." His violet eyes gleamed with fierce determination, the glow deepening until it bathed the rooftop in an otherworldly light. "Then take my strength," he continued, his voice carrying the weight of command. "Protect what matters to you, even if this becomes your last stand." The shadow soldier braced itself, trembling with effort but refusing to break. Suho raised his hand, energy pulsing like a heartbeat. One by one, shadows wrapped around the soldier, hardening and shaping into sleek, armored gear. First, a Naga warrior belt, enhancing its agility and resilience. Then, layered Naga shoulder guards, shimmering like polished obsidian, fortifying its defense as new strength surged through its darkened frame. Finally, the Naga warrior sword appeared in the soldier's grip, a rare-grade weapon, pulsing with a deadly gleam. Its stats were no joke, an attack boost of +55, agility increased by +5, and, most dangerous of all, a piercing enhancement capable of slicing through 10% of an enemy's defense as though flesh and steel were paper. The soldier's empty eyes flared with a violent violet blaze, raw power surging through its form like a live current. The oppressive aura it radiated forced even the trembling girl behind it to freeze in awe. With no hesitation, not even the faintest pause, the shadow soldier launched forward. It moved like a predator unleashed. Its steps blurred, ripping through the air with predatory precision. Blades clashed, the sharp ring of steel echoing through the blood-soaked alley. Then came the screams, raw, animalistic, desperate, before they were cut short in brutal succession. One by one, the inmates fell. Limbs twisted, crimson arcing violently through the dark until the ground was nothing but a slick canvas of blood and ruin. And through it all, the girl stayed untouched, protected within the unwavering perimeter of her guardian. As the last body hit the concrete, the alley fell silent. From above, Suho descended, stepping forward with a quiet, calculated air. His face was unreadable, but his movements, deliberate and steady, carried a weight that silenced even the shadows clinging to the corners of the street. His hand lifted slowly, palm open as his voice dropped into a commanding growl. Arise. At once, the shadows of the fallen convicts writhed violently, detaching from their corpses like black smoke drawn toward a flame. They solidified, one after another, until a new battalion of abyssal soldiers kneeled in unison before their master, awaiting his command. Suho's sharp gaze swept over the new ranks, and his words came out crisp, sharp as a blade. Search the city. Hunt down every last criminal hiding in the dark. Leave no one standing. At his side, Beru stood tall, his expression almost reverent. His voice, brimming with pride and restrained excitement, broke the silence. Exactly as you planned, my liege. The army swells with every passing second. Suho's eyes narrowed slightly in satisfaction, the faintest hint of a smirk curling his lips. At this pace, he murmured, his tone confident but cold, we'll purge the city completely in no time. Beru let out a low laugh, a twisted note of admiration threading through it. Behold, this is the true authority of the Shadow Monarch. For a heartbeat, Suho allowed the smile to deepen, almost private, almost human. You're right, he said quietly, gaze fixed on the sea of shadows. I thought this ability was little more than a gimmick. But now, I see it for what it truly is. His expression softened subtly when his eyes drifted toward the girl, still huddled near the original shadow soldier. Amid the chaos, she and the soldier shared something fragile, intimate, as if time had briefly frozen for just the two of them. Suho's voice dropped to a whisper, meant for no one but himself. Yes, it really is an incredible power. Beru caught the change in his master's expression. Tilting his head, his sharp eyes glinted with curiosity. Will you leave that one there, my lord? Suho gave a faint nod, a quiet smile tugging at his lips. His essence will fade within a day, Suho replied softly. Let him have his farewell while he still can. Beru chuckled knowingly, the sound like gravel scraping stone. Huh. My lord, you're almost unrecognizable from the man who stood here just moments ago, the merciless king who slaughtered villains without blinking. Suho opened his mouth, a wry retort forming, but then froze. His body went rigid. His eyes widened slightly as he felt it, a violent, searing ripple tearing through his network of shadows. Dozens of threads, severed in an instant. His voice hardened, cold and sharp as tempered steel. A large number of my soldiers were just wiped out. The easy grin faded from Beru's face, his excitement bleeding into a dangerous stillness. Then it seems, he said, voice low, we found him. The one orchestrating this entire riot. The perspective shifted. A street, utterly devastated, lay in ruin. Rubble and flames mixed with the dark sludge of melted shadows, dozens of Suho's soldiers lying in mangled heaps. Standing amidst the carnage was a lone man. Kong Taeshik. His presence was magnetic, his sharp eyes glinting with the cold fire of someone who'd crossed countless battlefields. Every line of his posture screamed control, dominance, and an unshakable readiness to strike again. Not far away, Huang Dong Suk scanned the wreckage, his face twisted in irritation and unease. His voice cracked like a whip, sharp and dripping with disdain. What the hell are these things, he barked, glaring at the dissolving remains of Suho's soldiers. I've never seen monsters like this, not even in dungeon records. His gaze snapped toward Taeshik, temper flaring hotter with every word. Oi, problem solver. Stop standing around and clean this mess up, now. Taeshik slowly turned his head, his expression a cold mask, eyes narrowing with razor-sharp irritation. This wouldn't even be happening, he said, his voice quiet but venomous, if we'd left when I told you to. Quit whining. A dark grin twisted at the corner of his lips as he added, almost smugly. Besides, after consuming a star fragment, I'm beyond A rank now. I've already broken through my limits. The arrogance in his voice was palpable, his confidence radiating like heat. But then, something strange happened. Taeshik's focus shifted toward the remnants of the battlefield, his eyes narrowing sharply, and then widening, just slightly, in stunned disbelief. The surviving shadow soldiers weren't attacking. One by one, they lowered themselves. Kneeling. Bending deeply, as though in reverence to an unseen presence. A chill swept down Taeshik's spine. What the? And then a voice, familiar, steady, and impossibly commanding, cut through the chaos like the crack of a whip. Young monarch, Beru intoned, pride swelling in every syllable. It seems, you've struck gold this time. Suho stepped from the shadows, his expression a storm of controlled fury. His violet gaze, sharp as polished glass, locked on the man standing amidst the ruin. His words fell like a judgment. So, it's you, Suho said, tone sharp and merciless. The bastard pulling the strings behind this entire riot. Both Dong Suk and Taeshik turned sharply at the sound of his voice. Dong Suk's lip curled into a sneer, his voice thick with contempt as his eyes raked over Suho. And who the hell are you, brat? Watch your damn mouth. His sneer widened, dripping with venom. So you're the one controlling these freaks, huh? Suho didn't flinch. Didn't blink. His stare locked on Dong Suk, cold enough to freeze the air between them. And when he finally spoke, his words carried an edge sharp enough to cut steel. Tell me, Suho said evenly. Do you know of the Apostle of Iterim? The same way Lee Minsung did. Dong Suk's voice carried an almost lazy confidence, though the subtle tension behind it betrayed the truth. Relax, he said with a half smirk, his posture deceptively casual. If you want to talk, keep a little distance. As for the Iterim, he tilted his head, a faint gleam sparking in his sharp eyes. Yeah, I know them. Quite well, actually. Behind his back, his fingers twitched in a barely noticeable gesture, a silent order. Taeshik caught it instantly. Summoners are always the same, Dong Suk thought, his mind calculating as he maintained his mask of ease. Weak bodies. Strip them from their shadows and they crumble. Keeping his tone smooth, Dong Suk let the bait dangle. These Iterim freaks you're talking about, he continued, voice silky with feigned curiosity, aren't they basically a cult? Worshippers playing at. A blur of movement cut the air. Taeshik darted forward, his body flickering like a phantom, blade flashing with lethal precision as he drove the strike straight for Suho's heart. But in the blink of an eye, everything went wrong. The blade sliced nothing but empty air. Suho was gone. And before Taeshik could process it, Suho was standing right in front of Dong Suk, not even a foot away. Taeshik froze mid-step, his muscles locking as his mind screamed. What? What the hell was that? I didn't even see him move. Suho's gaze burned with quiet fury as his hand settled firmly on Dong Suk's shoulder, the grip deceptively calm but suffused with a crushing pressure. His voice, deep and edged with steel, cut through the tension like a blade. So, you really don't have ties to the Iterim. The faint glow in Suho's eyes flared into a chilling violet blaze, his killing intent flooding the narrow street like a suffocating fog. Then explain something to me, Suho continued, each word sharp and deliberate. Where did you get the star fragments? His grip tightened, nails pressing down like unyielding steel claws. And tell me, his tone dropped lower, heavier, why you unleashed hell on the city. For the first time, Dong Suk faltered. The false bravado cracked, if only for a moment. His pulse hammered in his ears, the creeping realization dawning on him that this was no ordinary summoner standing before him. But still, pride clawed its way to the surface. He forced a sneer, masking the tremor in his voice. You touch me, he hissed through clenched teeth, and my younger brother won't let you walk away. The threat barely left his lips before Suho's fingers clamped down brutally, the pressure enough to drive him to his knees. The stone beneath him fractured under the weight of Suho's strength. A strangled scream tore from Dong Suk's throat as his shoulder gave way, pain exploding through him as Suho's nails dug in deeper, skin tearing like paper under the relentless grip. I don't care, Suho said, his voice a deadly whisper dripping with venom, if your brother is an S-rank, or a god. His eyes burned brighter, radiating raw dominance. Answer me. Panic ripped through Dong Suk, shredding what little composure he had left. His voice cracked, breaking under the agony. It was my brother, he shouted, desperation spilling from every word. He gave me the fragments. I don't know anything else, I swear. And the city, Suho pressed, his tone frigid, demanding. There wasn't a reason. Dong Suk stammered, every syllable trembling. It just amused me. Watching people scramble, watching them obey me, it was fun. The last word died in his throat as Suho's eyes narrowed into slits, his aura flaring violently. Bloodlust rolled off him in suffocating waves, thick enough to choke the air. So you butchered innocent people, Suho murmured, voice cold as winter steel, because you were bored. Terror twisted Dong Suk's expression, his arrogance stripped bare. He thrashed against Suho's grip, shouting hoarsely toward his companion. Taeshik! Do something! Help me! But Taeshik didn't move. He couldn't. His mind was chaos, his instincts screaming warnings so loud they drowned out everything else. This guy, he thought, muscles locked. This isn't normal. He's dangerous. If I want to live, I need to run. Even if it means leaving Huang Dong Suk to die here and now. But just as he shifted his weight, preparing to vanish into the chaos, the world went silent. And then, a voice. Not a sound that passed through his ears, but a violent intrusion that tore straight into his mind. Cold, commanding, inescapable. Sorry, the voice said, low and cruel, but running won't be that simple. Taeshik's entire body locked up, muscles trembling as ice shot through his veins. His breath caught, shallow and ragged. What the hell, he whispered, sweat dripping down his temple. Then, somewhere far from the blood-soaked streets, golden eyes snapped open. The Apostle. Surrounded by the S-rank hunters, he moved like a phantom, his gaze locking on Suho's position with predatory sharpness. Radiance poured from his eyes like molten gold, his voice carrying across the city like thunder only one man could hear. Before they interfere, the Apostle mused, his tone quiet but laced with a dangerous edge, I'll test the limits of Sung Suho's worth. The command roared through Taeshik's skull, undeniable and absolute. Obey your impulses, Kong Taeshik. His body convulsed violently, glowing gold as searing energy erupted from deep within, drowning his thoughts until nothing but instinct and rage remained. Control slipped away. And then, with no sound, no warning, Taeshik vanished. Camouflage cloaked him in nothingness as he lunged, moving like death incarnate. But Suho felt it. His instincts screamed, honed by countless battles, and at the very last fraction of a second, his body twisted sharply, dodging the incoming strike by a hair's breadth. The redirected attack carved into the figure behind him instead. Huang Dong Suk's body jerked violently as invisible blades tore through flesh and bone, shredding him in a brutal storm of unseen strikes. Blood sprayed across the cracked pavement, pooling fast. His wide, disbelieving eyes locked on Suho for the briefest moment, confusion, fear, and dawning realization flickering all at once, before the light drained from them entirely. His corpse hit the ground with a sickening thud. The street was silent except for the slow drip of blood seeping into the dirt. Suho didn't flinch. Didn't move. His eyes stayed sharp, cold, calculating, tracking the unnatural pulse in the air as if dissecting every shift in energy. Beru's voice, tight with an unease that was rare to hear, echoed in his ear. Young monarch, he warned, that aura, there's no doubt. It's him. The Apostle of Iterum. Suho's gaze narrowed, violet eyes burning with lethal intent as his voice dropped into a deadly calm. So, he murmured, someone who's ingested a star fragment is being controlled. Then, with the quiet certainty of a predator who'd found his prey, his tone sharpened, cutting like tempered steel. Fine, Suho said, his voice low and steady. I had a message for him anyway. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one.